Hey guys, welcome to the Gidlow Movie Show. Last week's episode went over quite a long while. It's probably been, has it been almost, if not over a year? It's probably been almost exactly a year at this point.
It has been, yeah, it's almost right at a year. It's less than a year, but it's pretty dang close.
Yeah, okay, episode 3 was 11 months ago, so, whatever. You know what?
It was funny when you said last week.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but.
Well, I mean, there's only been 3 episodes, so it's not like we were hardcore established for, like, crazy regular viewing.
If we'd have went like 258 episodes and then went a year, that might have been somewhat
yeah, that could have been an
disappointing.
But anyway, I'm Daniel Gidlow, joined with my brother Thomas Gidlow. Say hi, Tom.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. So that is that. So yeah, we're back. Yay,
yes.
Woohoo.
Woohoo!
I compiled. We're probably not going to be as formal as last time when we used to do this.
We were formal last time.
Well, I mean, we were pretty. Well, not formal, but we were pretty damn structured to where like it was like we had news articles, emails, news articles, reviews, and shit like that. So I probably just go with a list of stuff. Right, this episode specifically. And by the way, I have a cold, so if I cough, it's because I have a cold. We have a list of stuff compiled of recent news as well as things that happened over the last year that we necessarily wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily have talked about. Other places that people have been asking my opinion on. That Tom and I can go back and forth on, and I'm sure we'll go off on crazy random tangents and have fun and be stupid. And you and I have talked a couple times,
yes.
Well, at least once or twice over the last year, and. Like, we didn't...
a couple of more times than twice.
It was when I was either doing something or you were doing something, and, like, we were just talking to talk because we're siblings, and we should probably do that every once in a while. And we didn't necessarily... Like, it was... When we were done with the conversation, I was always thinking, we should have recorded that, because...
That's how the whole thing started, because we always talk... This is how we talk.
Exactly. This is
normal conversation, just as like how we do it.
Yeah, this podcast is probably going to be, for the most part, the most accurate representation of how Tom and I talk back and forth to each other. Outside of we probably don't quote stuff as much when we do this. I don't know if we do, if we'll end up quoting.
I went back and watched the little preview I did for the first episode, and I was quoting Generations.
Yeah, well, that was the preview. Was that the actual thing, like the actual podcast? Mm-hmm. No. Yes.
No, yeah, that was during it. I just took I recorded a video.
Oh, yeah. We're stupid referential people, and I think we mentioned that. So we make stupid references, and maybe we'll keep Stuart Bayard's career alive and continue mentioning him every once in a while. But anyway, let's just hop into the topics. First thing I have, and this is something that you had brought up to my attention.
Yes.
You were my first source for this. I was at my apartment, and Tom had texted me and said, "Did you hear that Ben Affleck got cast as Batman?" And I hopped on the computer and confirmed it, and I was like, what the hell? Because that was the most random thing in the world. I had no idea he was even up for it at the time. But
I don't even know how I found out. I think somebody posted it on their Facebook or something, and I saw it. So I was surprised I beat you. Well, they didn't really beat you, but... I was surprised that I was in the know about that before you were.
Yeah. Well, it became a thing on Twitter, like almost immediately after you had texted me, where people were tweeting at me left and right asking my opinion on it. I can already tell my voice is going to get really hoarse by the end of this. Don't record podcasts when you have a cold. It wasn't even that bad until we started, and I was talking consistently.
I know. I was going to say you're going to sound like you're getting progressively worse.
Probably.
So
that me drinking a Coca-Cola.
I will carry on. If you fall down and pass
go.
out, I'll just keep going.
Yeah. Why do we fall, sir? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up.
Michael Caine.
So that's Batman right there.
Yes.
Yay, we're on topic.
Yeah.
So Ben Affleck is Batman. What does this mean, Thomas?
Well, I, for one, will point the finger at me right off the bat, because I'm always, irked for some reason when there's something that you don't feel like should be going on. especially with movie castings and stuff like that. Like, I can look at it and be like, what? It just doesn't seem to work. Like, I'm like that all the time. So I get the whole, well, you know, the sort of mini outrage, I guess, that was a lot of people's opinions when it first came out. But then when you kind of sit back and think about it, maybe it's not so bad. And then by the time the movie comes out, everybody's in love with it. Generally. Not all the time.
Yeah.
But generally. So I think it's probably going to be one of those situations. I remember when it was like Christian Bale was Batman, I was like, what? But I couldn't see anybody else as Batman now. So I think it's kind of something like that. I like Ben Affleck.
I like Ben Affleck too. And you know what? My first reaction wasn't even like, was in no way negative. Like, my first reaction, and I was surprised at the negativity. Like, I was surprised how many people were like, I didn't think about the whole Daredevil thing, and that's what everybody's like, oh, Daredevil. But, like, my first reaction was, the man has been one of my favorite actors of the last few years because of The Town, and not even actor, director, because of The Town and because of Argo, because those were both...
Argo, fuck yourself.
Because those were both excellent movies, and he was excellent in them, and I was really surprised at how well he was. Like, I mean, I haven't seen him in too many like horribly serious movies in the last 20 whatever years of my life, so to see him kind of do something really kind of dark, moody, and serious with his kind of last two movies and his last two performances that I had seen him in, I was genuinely excited, like, that he was going to be Batman. And that was kind of my...
Did you get the immediate... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out, but did you get the immediate mental image of what he would look like as Batman?
No.
That's the first thing that popped into my head was this 40-year-old, kind of grizzled-looking, 5 o'clock shadow Batman kind of thing. Well,
something, and he could definitely pull that off, and I think that'd be pretty cool. Something that everybody, like, because Kevin Smith has seen the costume, or at least he hasn't seen the costume, but he's seen, I think, concept drawings of the costume. And Jennifer Garner recently was quoted in an article saying she had either seen the costume or once again, concepts or something like that. But both of them have said that the costume looks amazing, and it's something that is completely different from any incarnation that's been done to this point. So that's interesting, but also mildly worrying. Like, I don't know if they're going to go. They could be going, but the thing is, the movies haven't done the comic book more so Batman, where he's wearing the gray suit with the black cape and stuff like that. So it could still be an armored suit, but it might be gray with black, which would be really cool, because all they've done is, in the last, with the Burton movies and the Nolan movies, it's been the black, like rubber suit. So
right. Well, yeah, I don't see them going back in time and kind of doing an homage to Adam West's suit.
Yeah,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
No. I think it's gonna be armored. It has to be armored. You can't have a modern Batman that is fighting criminals and have him in paper thin fabric. I mean, he's strong, but he's not that strong. So
spandex tights. That's the only defense you really need.
Okay, so here this was August 22nd, 2000. I guess this would be 2013. After the announcement, I found my tweets about it. I said, my initial tweet was, Ben Affleck is an excellent actor, and then in parentheses, one of my favorite directors. Good choice for Batman. Didn't see that coming at all. And then right after that, like, I think a lot of people were like, but what about Daredevil? And so I did another tweet. I
like the tone you used when
what
you said
about Daredevil? First of all, I like Daredevil. I like that movie. It's a little ridiculous at points, but it's still not a horrible movie. And there's also a rated R version that I don't think a lot of people have seen, that they released on DVD. That's actually pretty good. And the only reason it's rated R, I think, is it's slightly more violent. There's almost boobs in it, and I think it probably has a couple swears in it that weren't in the original cut. But right. The second tweet was, hopefully he'll be able to do something similar to what Chris Evans did when he switched from Human Torch in Fantastic Four to Captain America, because, like, he's really great as Captain America. and I thought he was kind of
he
annoying.
was a little goofy as the Torch,
he's goofy and annoying, and those movies are horrible. Like, I don't like the Fantastic Four movies. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're more directed at children, so it's more children's humor. And it's not one of those movies that tries to double like something for the adults and something for the kids. It's like there's sections that are clearly just for the kids, and then usually like the last half hour of the movie that gets relatively serious. But the first hour or so of those movies are pretty hard to watch. But like I love him as Captain America, and I think and I like that as Captain America, he's not cracking jokes every 5 seconds, because that's what Chris Evans does in like every single movie he's in. So.
Yes.
I think
he seems made for Captain America, though. He seems like I can't. It's like, again, it's like one of those things where after you see him as that character, you just couldn't see anybody else playing it.
Exactly. I think Marvel's been pretty smart about all of those characters, which might work against them once people's contracts start running out and they have to recast, like they've had to do a couple times.
Yeah.
But
Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk. And also Rhodey.
Anybody remember Eric Bana as the Incredible Hulk?
Oh, well, Eric Bana wasn't even the same line of Marvel movies at that point. But yes, Eric Bana as the Incredible Hulk, and Nick Nolte as this crazy dad, and what's his name?
There goes my crazy kid again, off into the wilderness.
Yeah, so
those little huck yuck.
That amazing movie film. But yeah, like I don't know. I don't understand so much the hatred, the pure hatred. And the thing is, I think he went on Jimmy Fallon and was talking about it, and he was saying about how he understood it, but at the same time, it was pretty like he knew. I think somebody like before they made the announcement, he was kind of warned what was about to happen.
I'm sure he was.
And like. So he's dealing with it fine, which is good. Because it was kind of a similar reaction when Daniel Craig was cast as Bond. Like I
thought the same thing.
There was absolute outrage to his casting,
because he was like the anti Pierce Brosnan.
Well, everybody was saying he was the blonde Bond. Like, you know, he wasn't at the time they made the announcement. He wasn't buff or anything. And not that Bond was a buff character, but like he was the skinny dude with long blonde hair. And he just doesn't look like James Bond. But then the movie came out.
I don't know that he ever had long blonde hair.
No, when they made the announcement, his hair was long. His hair was pretty long. But they had done some promotional stills where his hair was dark. And I remember like a press guy asked. I was watching a documentary recently on it, and a press guy asked, you know, like in the stills, it looks like your hair is dyed. Is that what you guys are going with? And he was like, no, it must have been the lighting. You know, we're keeping my hair color or something like that. And like, I just remember when they were filming, because I wasn't sure about it either. Like, I wasn't against him or anything, but I wasn't sure. And there was a site called craignotbond.com. And I used to check it, and people were talking about how he didn't he didn't know how to drive stick. So he was like, you know, doing horribly when they were filming the driving scenes. And during a fight sequence, he ended up chipping a tooth and stuff like that. And I don't know if there was any truth to any of that. But there definitely, I don't think, was truth about the stick shift thing. But like, people just like dig for this, like the littlest things if they really don't like somebody playing a role.
Oh, it's even worse now, like than it was back then, because that was what 8 years ago now. The whole Daniel Craig thing was on.
That was.
And I mean, I kind of get like I've said before, I get some of what, and it's like, I guess apparently Ben Affleck said it. You know, he gets it. He knows, you know, what's going on as far as that whole thing goes. But he's not Ben Affleck from 1995.
Yeah.
You know, he's come a long way. This isn't like Affleck Damon-y kind of stuff. And even that, I'm a fan of all of that stuff, but it's not that kind of stuff. He's a far more mature guy. He's a great actor, and I don't think there's going to be any problem with it, because it's not Nolan's Batman anyway, so it's supposed to be different.
Yeah, I'm always in the camp you have to reserve judgment until you see it, and like as excited as I am to see it, because I'm a big Batman fan and I'm a big fan of him, I think he'll do well, but I won't know until I see it, so I can't really judge it yet. But
the setup they have, I don't really see how he's going to do a terrible job. I just don't see it just being horrible or. Well,
you and I both really liked Man of Steel. Man of Steel came out in between our year-long gap here, and you and I both really enjoyed it. It's kind of the same case with Star Trek Into Darkness, though, where it's one of those movies that I like, but because there was so much negativity around it, like there's a lot of mixed reviews regarding both of those movies, that when I look back at it, I think of it as kind of like, I think of it in a negative way, but at the same time when I watch it, it's not bad. I like it. It
makes
has that weird thing.
Yeah. Like when I'm watching the film, when I'm watching Into Darkness, I'm like, just, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I suspend everything. Like when I'm watching the film, and that's a credit to the film. It makes me suspend all that stuff. And then when when I see somebody talking about it or see a comment about something related to Star Trek and how it's gone downhill since J.J. Abrams has taken over, it makes me a little mad. It irritates me a little bit, because the same people who talk about, how Star Trek's lost its way and it's not like the Star Trek it used to be. It's exactly the way it used to be. It's the same. This is what the original series was all about. Like, we've talked about this probably before on this show. The whole arc thing.
I think you and I have talked about how much we could talk about Star Trek if we really got into
I know. We could do 10 hours worth of Star Trek discussion. But long story short, anyway, it's the same thing with Star Trek as it is with what we're talking about. People are going to find things to pick about, and I like being attention to detail and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you got to remember it's a movie.
Yeah,
and a lot of people kind of forget that.
Yeah,
I think. But
well, when it comes to I really love Zack Snyder as a director. Like, the guy can visually tell a very good story, but also. I think he's just in general a good director. Like, he can direct action well. But so for the next movie, it's the same writer-director team. It's still Zack Snyder. It's still David Goyer. And I like David Goyer. He was involved with all three of the Nolan Batman films. I believe he wrote the screenplay for Batman Begins. I'm almost certain he did. And then Nolan and his brother wrote the screenplay for Dark Knight, and then Dark Knight Rises, I believe. But Goyer was cited for story for the other two, so he worked with Nolan to come up with the story, and then they wrote it. I think Goyer is a really good story guy. Like, I think he's really good with coming up with good stories. But as a writer, I think he kind of lacks a little bit. Like, his dialogue sometimes isn't the best, and I think he has a habit of I don't think he's as creative as some other writers are. Like, I really think he has a good handle on coming up with a story, but I think it should be somebody else writing it, because he wrote the Blade movies. And I like the Blade movies, but there's some horrible dialogue in some of those movies.
Well, it's like peaks and valleys. Like, you get to a certain point where it's like everything's great, but then there's a lull, or there's something that's within the story that's like a side thing or something or other, and then it kind of goes and starts resting on some cliches or something like that. Like, yeah, I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a writer that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, but I think there are writers that don't.
Yeah, he's also a writer-director, and his directorial efforts have been pretty bad. They've been really bland, and he wrote the movies he's directed. He directed the third Blade movie. He directed a movie called The Invisible, I believe it was called, and that was one of the most flat movies I had ever seen. And I was really excited for it, because I really like him, and I want to like his stuff, but I don't know. I'm iffy about him kind of being in charge of the future of these movies with Batman. And I like that he's working with Zack Snyder, but I have the same problem with Zack Snyder. The second Zack Snyder tries to write something, it really goes out the window and is not that good. Because he's a really good adaptation worker. Like, 300 was really good. Excuse me. Watchmen was really good. What other? That's pretty much it. 300, Watchmen. Those were really good movies. And then he did Sucker Punch, which he wrote and directed. Well, co-wrote. I think he wrote it with his wife. And that movie was just a music video with dialogue every once in a while. Like, it was not, like, conceptually, it just wasn't good. It was an all right enough movie, but it tried to be deep where it wasn't deep, and it really was just like a series of CGI moments and music video stuff. So I I feel like teamed together, these two guys, I don't think are as strong as they could be if they brought in a different creative person to work with. Like, I really feel like there needs to be another writer outside of those two, but that's just kind of my opinion on that in general.
They kind of do have time, I suppose, if they want to revisit it, since they've pushed it off now to 2016. But is it a situation where that they're really in charge of the future of Batman, or because this is kind of still a Superman movie?
Well, I mean,
it's not really
they're really. I mean, it's a sequel to Man of Steel, but they're toting it as Batman versus Superman. So
right,
it's supposed to be kind of they're toting it as both of their movies, their movie. But they're also talking about introducing, like, a lot of people were really worried when it first, like, they announced that they're rushing on a Justice League movie, that they're trying to get to where the Avengers is at in shorter time, because you're doing a sequel to Man of Steel and then you're also bringing Batman into it, when a lot of people feel like Superman just got his grounding in his first movie. And now you're already introducing Batman. And now they've also introduced the fact that Wonder Woman is going to be in the movie as well, which makes it really seem like they're rushing into a Justice League movie, because you're going to have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Well, the thing that's really going to make it seem like they're rushing it is just how slow the Avengers build was. Because how many movies did that encompass before they did the Avengers?
It was 4 movies before the Avengers.
It seemed, well, anyway.
No, I'm sorry, 5 movies. I think
5 movies. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me list this out here, Thomas. Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2,
right?
Thor, Captain America, and then Thor. I'm pretty sure
there was only 5.
Yes, 5, and then the Avengers.
But it felt right when they did it. Like it felt like by the time the Avengers came, everybody was where they were supposed to be.
Yeah, well, everybody had to have an origin story, and then they all come together.
Right.
Except for Iron Man, who had 2 movies. He got 2 different
right,
movies.
but Superman was a little bit different in that it was like, okay, now he's finally, grounded, so to speak, in that sort of world that they were creating. And yeah, it's Marvel, but now you're going to take that, and now it's going to be like something completely different. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like
you feel it works.
Well, no, I'm saying I'm kind of agreeing with you in that, like, you've got this Superman that's it's a different type of Superman. He's more grounded, and it's more of a different, sort of feel. It's like a Nolan did with Batman.
Yeah.
And now you're taking him and pulling him out of that into this comic booky sort of. Now it's the Justice League combating. Who are they going to combat? I mean, it's not like they're going to fight these people from mythical vortexes or something like the Avengers do.
Yeah.
But it's just like, give them another movie to kind of build towards that, So I do kind of agree with you in that sense.
Yeah. And who knows their plan, specifically when they're all going to come together. But when you have 3 in one movie that's supposed to be a sequel for one dude, it just feels mildly overwhelming. But specifically, the woman cast as Wonder Woman, and I'm going to say different pronunciations of her name because Tom and I were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about this before, and I wanted him to get it right before we started.
There's no way I could have gotten it right a million times over the last few months after she was announced or whatever. But it's spelled Gal. Is her first name, so it's Gal or Gale. I thought it was Gale for some reason, but I guess it might be Gal.
It looks like Gal.
Gal or like Gal. I mean, she's Israeli. She's an Israeli actress. So
don't overthink it. I would say Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot or Gail Gadot
or Margot Kidder as we said.
Margot Kidder. Yes, Margot Kidder as Wonder Woman. So she actually
brings it all together full circle.
Yeah, all the way full circle for Superman there.
Yes.
But her deal. They just. She revealed this recently. Her deal was a 3-movie deal, so she's locked in for 3 movies.
3 movies.
Those could either be Justice League or specifically a Wonder Woman movie herself.
So let me get this straight: they're going to put her in the Batman Superman movie, and then she'll get an origin story.
I mean, she just might have her own movie. It could be like a spin-off sort of thing. They do that every once in a while.
So they'll set her, and then she'll be off doing her.
Yeah.
her Catwoman type stuff.
Maybe, who knows? I don't know. Like, yeah, we don't know how they're gonna. The only thing that is 100% for certain is that there will be a scene in the movie that is a football game where it's Metropolis versus Gotham. They've already filmed it.
That is already set. They filmed it already.
Okay, well there was a college football game that was going on that I think for the halftime or something like that, either that or after the game, they had the teams dress up in fully made Under Armour custom jerseys, one for Gotham and one for Metropolis. It was like Gotham and Metropolis college teams facing each other, and they filmed a couple plays, and then that was it.
Really?
Yes.
Why didn't I hear about this? I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, it was the first thing they shot. Production didn't even start yet, but they filmed that scene. They just filmed the game because Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill weren't there.
Right.
But supposedly it's supposed to take place with a scene with them two interacting or something like that in the stands or something like that. So they filmed that. That's the only thing that's been filmed so far for the movie, supposedly. So
Batman and Superman go to a football game and argue about which team's going to win.
Yeah.
This is the crux of the movie. And then, they put a bet on the game, and whoever wins.
And what it does is it comes down to a field goal shot, and Superman fucking uses his super breath and blows the ball out of the goal.
And Batman
or deflates the ball
out there and pulls it back, and puts it,
uses the
puts
grapple
it through
gun.
the upright.
Oh man.
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, we talked about going back to Adam West type stuff. That would be right up the alley. Old school Batman.
Old chum. So yeah.
Adam West needs to make an appearance in this movie. That's what I'm saying.
A cameo.
Burt
That'd be pretty
Ward's still
good.
alive too. Bring them both back.
Yeah, there you go. I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, so I don't know. It also, I don't even know if we mentioned this. Batman Superman movie, they pushed, I think, production start back. So they also because of that they pushed. Yeah, they pushed back the release. Did you say that?
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, they pushed back the release to 2016. So that means it's getting out of the way of the biggest year in movies ever.
Which I'm kind of disappointed in a slight sense because I wanted it to stay with all the other stuff that's coming out in 2015, but it's probably for the best anyway because there's just so much coming out in 2015. So
yeah,
it can compete with Star Trek now because Star Trek's coming out in 2016.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Star Trek needs somebody to compete against, and if not, why not Batman and Superman?
Yes.
It'll probably get crushed anyway. Because
well, it's going to be not to go on and. Yeah. Well, it'll get crushed, but I think, relatively speaking, I think the next Star Trek film's probably going to be a little bit more downsized as opposed to epic scope and story and budget and that kind of thing. So,
yeah. I think they need
percentages
to
wise, it'll be closer.
Yeah. I mean, and like you and I have been talking about, CGI is getting so realistic at this point that it's probably getting cheaper and cheaper as as technologies are refined and everything.
Well, I'm thinking it's the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, so I think I don't know. I have this sneaking suspicion that they're not going to probably go like full camp like with the Voyage Home. Not that was full camp or anything, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it'll be one of those type of movies. It'll be more along the lines of that versus the last two.
I would absolutely love that. I doubt that'll happen,
because it feels like you've earned it, like I've said before on numerous occasions. It feels like they've earned the right to be who they are now, so they can go off and do whatever they want to do and have success doing whatever, exploring and all that stuff, and then come into a situation where the fans feel like they can laugh and kind of carry on with them as they're going through whatever adventure they're going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably the direction that it would, at least more so than going, into the depths of darkness and the next villain and that kind of thing.
Darker. You have to go darker, Tom. That's what every single movie is going darker.
Hey, in the 80s and 86, it was the whales. They could take, like, well, see, they probably fixed all the global warming and stuff and all that, but they could take an issue of the day now, make it relevant for that, at that point, and then do that. That's what they could do. I don't think they would do like Save the Trees or anything like that.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll do that.
some sort of social issue movie.
Yeah, well, that's what Star Trek's all about. The
Absolutely.
Undiscovered Country was about the Berlin Wall. Yeah, the Berlin Wall coming down.
Yeah,
the Russians
Berlin
and the
Wall.
Soviets and
That
those
was
kind
one
of things. And Reagan.
That was one of my favorite Star. Well, that was my favorite original series movie. But yeah, good movie. Yeah. Like that movie. I definitely like to see that. But it'll be interesting to see how they tackle that. But
or they could go completely opposite route and go Days of Future's Past route and bring the entire cast back from every single show.
That's what you talk about, but I doubt they'll do that. I really don't think at this point. Like, see the thing is, for Next Generation and the original series, they did that their first movie. Like, they had the TV show and their first movie since the original series movies, which, thinking about it this way, is the most peculiar way to do things, because they had the TV series running that took place hundreds of years in the future. Or 100 years in the future, right?
Yeah, less than 100. It was 80-ish.
Less than 80-ish years in the future, and you have these movies that take place further back in the canon. And then, like, when the movies are over, you start doing the new series, and then, like, they brought them together. It just seems like such a weird way to do that.
Right. But
if you guys don't know what I'm talking about the original series movies with the Kirk and all of them were going on alongside the Next Generation TV show that was airing on television.
Well, not all of them. It was just the last two. It was 5 and 6. The Final Frontier and the Undiscovered Country were the only ones that were made while Next Generation was on. The other 4 were made before that.
No, I know, but it's still weird to have movies in a much further back in the canon happening.
Well, it's kind of hard, especially as Next Generation gained popularity. It's hard to go back and then watch the original series and be like, wow, they're like 100 years, in the past, and all that kind of stuff. But it's funny, if you watch the Final Frontier, you can obviously tell that they used a lot of the stages that they were using for the Next Generation TV show. Because the ships look almost the same.
Yeah.
Inside.
Mainly because that movie sucked.
Well,
but Final
that's
Frontier.
a whole other story.
That is a whole other story. But for that they did Generations, where for the first movie with the Next Generation, they had a connecting movie. And in a way, they already did this. They already had their Days of Futures Past thing with Star Trek, the first 2009 movie, because they did it with, old Spock. They already had that connecting thing. To do it again is just like rehashing the same thing over and over again. Just you having the Next Generation. But you pretty much had the Next Generation because it was Spock after, unification and all that stuff.
Right.
You kind of already had that.
It was just one of them. Like, in Generations, it was Kirk. And then in 2009 Star Trek, it was Spock. The Days of Futures Past, at least from what it looks like, they're all interacting with each other. Like, their future counterparts and their past. Like, at least the main two are. It's like their version of Kirk and Spock interacting with their younger selves. You didn't see that in either incarnation with Star Trek.
You saw old Spock interacting with young Spock. What are you talking about?
No, I know, but you didn't see Kirk and Spock working with older Kirk and Spock.
But you're talking about Patrick Stewart and everything, right? Though you're talking about like Picard and Kirk and Geordi and Worf and B4. But if you're going by like if Countdown is canon, which it's not, Star Trek Countdown. No. We're getting into really nitty-gritty Star Trek here. But
how did this devolve completely into the Star Trek podcast?
Because we talked about, I don't know, it always does.
We'll segue this into the movie we review. How about that? Because we'll tie that in quite easily.
That connects fine.
Yes.
So if you count Countdown as canon, as I do, but isn't really, because it makes sense. Like, it makes the movie make sense, which when something that isn't canon makes the movie make sense, that's probably not a good thing. But in Countdown, it was the prequel comic to the 2009 Star Trek movie. It explains why Nero's ship is so fucking huge for a mining ship. And weird and super, technology.
It was Borg, wasn't it? Borg.
It was Borg.
Technology.
Yes, it was Borg technology. That it was regenerative Borg technology, which makes sense as to why they, the ship still worked after getting the shit kicked out of it by the what's it called, the Kelvin. So,
right.
By that logic, Picard is pretty much just he was just the he was an
He was
admiral.
an admiral.
For Vulcan. Like, he was the admiral representative for Vulcan. Why would Picard somehow get involved with a story amongst these scattered crew of the Enterprise E or whatever it was, the last one? Why would they all come together somehow to be in a story for... Like,
Well, I meant all of them, not just the Next Generation. I was talking about Next Generation,
I
Deep
know,
Space
but,
Nine,
like,
Voyager,
I have-
Enterprise. Bring them all back.
Oh, Jesus. That would
You
be what black hole is being created? That would just like the story would have to be Star Trek is a fake thing where somebody is daydreaming about a wormhole opening up and all of them being sucked in.
There is a way. I wish I could put the idea that I had online and let people go look at it and stuff, because I haven't even fleshed it all out. But I had an idea to do that. To where you wouldn't have every single person. Like, I think Cisco's off.
I just imagine them. I imagine them. Okay, this is the story I'm imagining. So I'm imagining, Chris Pine Kirk on the bridge of the Enterprise, doing his 5-year mission, and then we cut to Janeway in the year 34, whatever it is, sitting in her office at Starfleet headquarters. A wormhole comes up under her chair, sucks her in. Cuts to Geordi out on, Boom Bar 8, working on his, Jellyfish 2 design, and then he gets sucked into a little wormhole. And then cut to Worf, who's on Kronos and the Klingon High Council, and then he gets sucked out.
The Chancellor, yeah.
Yeah, so you have these people who would have no right to be together. That far into the future,
and don't forget Archer and his dog.
Oh yeah, well that would ease Scotty's conscience, because Admiral Archer's prize beagle would be found. Mm-hmm. And
then old Scotty would somehow appear and tell young Scotty, "What are you talking about? I never had a dog, or never had." Yeah, never mind. I was going somewhere.
This was. I'm sorry for the people who don't get Star Trek and are hopefully.
I am not apologizing at all, because this is actually quite good. The thing is, though, no, that it's not that stupid. There's a way to do it to where you cherry pick a few people from each show, not every single one of them, but like I had Chakotay, and I didn't have Janeway, but I had Chakotay because I was trying to think of people who'd actually do it. Yeah. I don't know that Kate Mulgrew would come back. I think she's had her day in the sun for Star Trek.
I think no, she's on an Adult Swim show. Well, no, she's actually on a couple different shows, but she's on an Adult Swim show.
I'm not saying she wouldn't do it out of not wanting to do Star Trek. I just don't know that she would do it. I mean, she might. I guess
she's doing a few.
Who knows?
She's been doing a few things recently that she hasn't been bad in, but it's like not anything huge. But maybe that's just how she likes it. Yeah. But I don't know who's the character that's dead on the show.
Oh, that's the one. I want somebody. I want Commander Tucker, who dies in Enterprise. I want him.
Okay, so a wormhole in his grave sucks his coffin in.
No, but you got to understand too. The whole thing with Enterprise was that whole.
And then they use Khan blood to bring him back.
Yes,
but like, why is this casket
blood?
On the bridge?
Is it Montalban's blood, or is it Cumberbatch's blood?
You're just entering a world of like. Ricardo Montalban is dead. How would you have him in the movie? CGI Montalban.
We just talked about. I talked about Scotty too. I mean, no.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
It would make sense. Trust me, it would be a really good story. It would involve Picard and Q in the main story, and the sub story would be how all of them sort of intertwine and how the whole wormhole started, or not worm. See, you got me on wormholes now. But it would all tie back into how the whole thing started in the first place with the star exploding in Romulan space or wherever it was.
Yeah.
So it would tie into that. It was going to be a story about the Elorians and how they are actually humans and how they were on Earth long before we were.
Yes, you've talked about this before.
And how Q was telling Picard all of this stuff and showing him how humanity is going to be better than the Q and be the force in the universe, because he knows that the timeline's about to change and all this stuff isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
That was what basically
I never see any of that happening. And
no, it would be interesting if it could happen. I think because
yeah, I'm just
we'll let the people decide. Let the people who are listening.
Okay, everybody, if this is it's up to you.
Horrible idea.
Write your Paramount representative and
I don't even know what time this is at, but whatever time in the video this has got to be close to like 37 minutes in.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts. Tell me I'm crazy, or tell me it's a great idea or it's a horrible idea. Don't hold back. I want to know. Okay.
And if you're with me, hashtag wormholes in the comment section.
Yes, do it all on Twitter. That'd be great. Yeah,
they can do it on YouTube too. They can do it.
YouTube too. And if you're with me, so if you're with Dan, and that it's a terrible idea, hashtag wormholes. And if
I don't think it's a terrible idea. It will never happen. They are going in a forward direction.
But if you think it's a great idea and it should happen, write to Paramount Pictures, P.O. Box, whatever. No,
Rick Berman at Paramount.
Rick Berman. Stuart Baird, Rick Berman, John Logan, and let's see, Brandon Braga. Just write to all of them and tell them to bring it up. And
we've just spent a good probably about 7 or 8 minutes on Star Trek. We, by the way, have just knocked out our first topic of multiple topics. That was only one topic.
Oh wow.
That was literally only one topic.
We had a lot of catching up to do. We had a lot of catching up to do.
Well, we have a lot more catching up to do on this list.
We still have a lot. This is going to be a 23-hour podcast, so stay tuned. Get something to eat, and get a comfy chair and get yourselves ready.
We're going to have a 1-year intermission again, but it'll be 23 hours.
No, that's the thing. We'll do a 97-hour podcast, and then we'll take a year break and do another one.
There you go. I mean, I think that's worth it. Yeah. All right, so you
wanted more regularly than a year, I would think.
So from this, I believe Tom wanted us to transition into our review of Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, also starring Chris Pine, who plays Kirk in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. This is a reboot of the Jack Ryan series. If you are unfamiliar as to who Jack Ryan is, Jack Ryan has created a character created by Tom Clancy, the late Tom Clancy. That is something I forgot to add to the list.
Yes.
Tom Clancy passing away. Tom and I were actually in a call when I found this out. You and I were talking on Skype. It was early in the morning. I was at work, and I audibly yelled, like, what? Like, when I was talking to you. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I was, like, completely taken aback. I found out Tom Clancy died, passed it on to you, and I was just really shocked about that, because I'm a huge... you and I are both
one of Dan's heroes growing up. He read all the books.
Well, not all the books, but I read a few of them. I owned all of them. I owned first editions of all the Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy books, up to, I think, Red Rabbit. And like legitimately hardback first editions I bought at the library we used to live near, and I loved those books. I've read 3 or 4 or 5 of them, and I love the movies. I loved his games, Splinter Cell. That's what got me into Tom Clancy. So for the last 14 years or so, I've been really into Tom Clancy, and it was just a big, huge thing to find out he passed away, because that's one of those things. It's like the last couple of years I've been able to meet a few of my heroes, like a few of my, like, the people that I really look up to, whether it be musicians or comic book related people or movie related people. I've been able to actually shake some people's hands. I had I in a way met Stan Lee and had him sign a print of mine, and I got to see him. I didn't get to shake his hand because the guy took my poster and got it signed by him, which was a big dick move. But I got to shake Claudio Sanchez's hand at Comic-Con, and I got to see Lou Ferrigno wave at me creepily, and I filmed him doing it. And just like other things, it's been really cool, and I just wish I had gotten to meet him. But that was a weird, long tangent. But Jack Ryan... So we have the Jack Ryan movies that have been released up to this point, were The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, and The Sum of All Fears. And that's order of release, ladies and gentlemen. Baltimore! And so this is a movie that's kind of in the same line of The Sum of All Fears, where it's a reboot to the series. They're introducing a younger Jack Ryan, and they're attempting to... Although this is the first movie that isn't based on one of the books. Although it has elements. It definitely has elements of a couple of the books that I've read.
And just to advise, here are these spoilers, because we're going to get into this pretty in-depth, I would imagine.
Yes,
if you
I would definitely
say the movie. You need to see the movie. It'll be in a week, so you should have already seen it.
Yes. Okay. So let me just, before we get into spoilers and everything, let me just give you a quick relative plot synopsis. This follows Jack Ryan at the start of his being recruited to the CIA. I almost
Welcome
said that
to
wrong.
The CIA, sport.
I said that to Liz, and she was like, "What?" She's like, "Oh, sorry, that's a different movie."
Yes.
But it starts off his being recruited to the CIA, just with a desk job working at Wall Street, where he's meant to follow money traces and stuff like that. With essentially, he's looking for how terrorists are getting funded, essentially through Wall Street and stuff like that, hidden accounts and blah blah blah. So that leads him to Russia with a I can't remember the name of the character actually. Chevy Chase? Chevron?
Yeah, I don't know what his name is.
Anyway,
Chevron.
It leads him to this horribly evil Russian, I guess, company, and the guy who runs it, and blah, 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 blah. It's far more complicated than I make it sound, so let me not tell you that it's not complicated. But, Jack gets in over his head as he becomes...
Well, you should also delineate the company Jack works for has a relationship with the company the Russian guy works for.
Well, that's
the guys.
That's a lot more specifically.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't getting into crazy specifics. I was just giving a general overview. But essentially, he uncovers the financial terrorism plot and is thrown into the thick of things by actually having to do agenty things and actually go on ops and stuff like that. So, in Russia, by the way. That's the general plot synopsis. Let's start off with the beginning of the movie, the very beginning of the movie. What were your thoughts on the whole 9/11 thing and him going into the armed forces because of that?
Now this is different. This is a different reason, obviously, because 9/11 didn't happen before in the books.
In the books, he fought in the Gulf War and was injured that way. I really loved, because with the Ben Affleck Some of All Fears film, we didn't. It just seemed like he was an analyst. We didn't have the war hero background, and that's something that was in the books. That was something they alluded to in the Some of All Fears about how, he seems like this jittery, like, analyst guy. But, when the two captains are talking to each other, it's like, well, he served in the war and, was injured and he saved men's lives. I loved that they didn't start off the plot of the movie immediately. They actually set up background for the character. I love that he was in school in London and saw the terrorist attacks on September 11th and that made him want to serve in the army. I really liked, because that's what, if Jack Ryan was a modern character, that's what he would have done. And I love that they did that. What were your thoughts?
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, this is a little bit more general than specific to the beginning of the movie, but I had a general sense, because it's all you see in trailers and it's all you see of pictures and stuff like that. Like, I was afraid coming in at the beginning of this movie that this movie might be a little bit more like what they did with Alex Cross, and how they made him more of an action star than a detective.
That movie was horrible, by the way.
It was dreadfully bad. And I am a huge Alex Cross fan. I love the first two movies. But that's,
and you've read the books as well.
Yeah, they're from the book. Like, they're thinking man's novels, and they're thinking people, not just men, but they're thinking man's characters. And that's what Ryan is. Ryan is a cerebral guy who would fight if he could, but can't because he's injured, but still fights anyway because he has to.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it, especially because they show, like, this was the first time you actually saw the reason why Ryan's not out there, as a spy, or doing whatever he is, kicking ass and stuff like that. Because, he's a hero and he was injured.
Well, it's not even necessarily his injury either. It's just the fact that, like, it obviously but like, he's not, like, injured to the point where he couldn't serve. I think it's like, in the specific moment, he was obviously somewhat. I think he was a lieutenant at that point. He was obviously gained his way up through the ranks through kind of more managerial status, because they were asking why he was specifically going out on that mission, and he said, well, I'm here to serve, so I'm serving. Like, I don't think that would be his first choice either way, but after that situation, he's not somebody who would charge in on the front lines, but if he needs to, he will kind of character.
Right.
That's the way he is. He's not built for that kind of, like,
he looked the part. I will tell you, like, any mental image that you ever had of Jack Ryan, this would fit it to the bill. At least in my opinion.
When I read the books, I always imagined Alec Baldwin for some reason. Like, even knowing, like, because up to this point, Alec Baldwin was the perfect Jack Ryan, because that was the age. Like, Jack Ryan was supposed to be in the books. Like, he was supposed to be early 30s kind of thing, right. early to mid 30s. And so Harrison Ford was kind of older.
Well, definitely, yeah, in that aspect. But there was a brashness about the way Baldwin played it. I think there was more. He was a little bit more ego-centered. A little, like, it just felt like he was a little bit more ego-driven than Pine. Pine's a lot more of a humble, more of, I guess, along the lines of a Harrison Ford type approach to it.
Yeah,
but I like Harrison Ford too. Okay, so we get to the beginning, and right away, I noticed something a little strange. I'm a big Keira Knightley fan.
Yeah.
I like Domino is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's probably one of the most underrated movies of all time. So if you haven't seen Domino, be sure to watch Domino. It's a good movie.
My name is Domino Harvey.
Yes, it's a good movie. She's great in it. I liked her in the pirate movies too.
Yep.
But I don't know what in the world happened to her. She's lost a lot of weight. Like, she is a rail
she is,
in this movie.
She's been relatively stick thin for a while, yeah.
Yeah. But it was a little bit annoying in spots. There were spots where it wasn't, but I just feel like she was miscast in this role. Like,
really?
She didn't... Yeah, I know that might sound a little strange, but she did a good job, don't get me wrong. Like, but I wrote this on my hand so I wouldn't forget it. I think I'm a little bit spoiled in this instance, or that the one sort of takeaway I take away from the Sum of All Fears, I know you have, your classic woman sort of thing, but I think Bridget Moynahan did such a good job playing the perfect wife of Jack Ryan that anything that comes after her, even 10, 15 years later, it's going to fail in comparison. To me, anyway, I think, she didn't live up to what Moynihan did with the character in the limited amounts that she had.
I was about to say, Moynihan was hardly in the movie.
But that was the thing. She played it so that you remembered it. And I just come away from this one feeling like also there were parts that I liked of her performance, like with the one-on-one with the bad guy was good. But there were other parts where I was like, why are you around still? Let's focus in on the story. We don't need to keep cutting to you. Maybe that's a director thing, but they kept cutting to her over and over again. Yes, we get it. She's going to find something that they can't see. We get it. Stop panning over to her. Every other 5 seconds, because we know foreshadowing that she's going to come up with something. We know she's on the plane. You don't have to keep showing her over and over again. Yeah. But I don't know. What was your thoughts?
Did you find? Hold on, wait. Did you find that the scene to be mildly ridiculous? The part
it was
where Ryan,
a little too hop, skippity, jumpity, uppity,
Like, it was, but that was a moment. It was almost as if, like, they had so many different plot things going, where it was like they needed to connect them. They needed one scene to connect it all together.
Everything,
and it's just
once.
like, we need to throw it all in right now. We only have like 4 minutes of scene. No, you need to have Ryan to figure out everything in this one instance.
Yes,
because
Ryan was
it was hard to follow also, as an audience member.
It was
hard
to
follow.
You have to keep up. That's for sure. But it also, in some small way, felt like a commercial for the CIA. Like, this is the kind of career you can look forward to. Always on the move and always thinking of 75 different things at once. Find that guy's cell phone. Find this guy's computer pictures on Reddit and Facebook and all this stuff. I mean, it was just like crazy.
Social media. I want his Twitter, his Bongo, his Dingo.
What's the hashtag that guy just used? Yeah. What's that mean? What's that mean? Where does this go?
If anything, this is a shining commercial for the CIA and a horrible warning for the FBI, because that FBI gets murdered.
Yes,
but
I would definitely say so. They will have to rectify that, I'm sure, for the next movie.
Anyway, for Keira Knightley's performance, I thought she was actually really good. I thought she was good, but I would have the same argument for her character being around as much as she is, for the same argument I have with Jack being in as much of the action he is. It's just the way they wrote it. Like, they wrote her to be a moderate damsel in distress at one point when she gets kidnapped, and then they're obviously going for a somewhat of a Jack Ryan action star kind of thing, throwing him into the action as opposed to keeping him on the sidelines.
But more along the lines of how they've done it in the past, as opposed to him. He is the superhero kind of thing.
You don't think by the end of the movie they went with that, like that last like the climax of the film?
Well, if we want to start talking about the climax of the film, we can get into it. I had many sort of thoughts. About how
but
the
I mean,
film ended, but
the way the books are and the way the movies were before Sum of All Fears, because they went the same route with Sum of All Fears, where it was like he was the only person around to deal with it, so he had to deal with it.
Right.
In the books, it's not generally like that.
Right.
I mean, I didn't get too far into the books. I was still pre-President Jack Ryan when I was reading the books, but I'm assuming as they go on, he gets less and less in the action, considering he's the president at some point.
Right.
But the ones I've read, I mean, outside of Hunt for October, where the movie has it accurately, like he's in the bowels of the ship looking for the one guy, but like that's as actiony as it gets generally for Jack Ryan.
Well, and you got to think too, the older that Chris Pine gets, obviously, the less it's just an evolution in the character and in him, the actor. I mean, they're not going to have him. Chris Pine's not 25. He's not 23, 25 years old. He's not like the next big thing as far as like in terms of his age in that sense. I mean, he's a young enough guy, but he's not 20, 23, 25 or whatever.
He's 33.
I don't really what's that?
33.
Okay, he's actually a little younger than I thought he was. But I felt like by the last scene to me sort of seemed more along the lines that he's going to be kind of in that realm more than the actiony realm. Although he did have sort of the Batman hero-ish ending, of which we could dissect over and over again. The one thing I do want to mention right off the top, when he comes out of that van, and he must have rolled like 50 times.
Yeah.
The very next shot is him looking up all fine and perfect, like, huh? Like, not a scratch on him. Nothing. Just like, what's going on? I just rolled 50 times going at, 60 miles an hour. So what?
Yeah, and that's something that in the books, like when Jack Ryan gets shot in Patriot Games, he's in the hospital for months.
Right.
Like, he's just shot in the shoulder. And he's like in movies, people get shot in the shoulder, and then next week they're fine. They're wearing a splint and they're running around. Like they're fine.
It was a flesh wound.
Yeah, but like in the book, and even in the movie a little bit. In the movie, they don't portray it as super long, but like in the book, they have him in the hospital for about probably 3 to 6 months. I can't remember exactly what, and even after that, it's still troubling him. But in the movie, like they essentially have him in the hospital, and then they cut to him going home. But it's an undetermined amount of time. But in this movie, like he's specifically that, like he's fine.
I get it for brevity's sake. It's a movie, I understand, but. I mean, it would have just even the littlest thing would have sold it so much more as him being that guy that is put in the situation and only he can do it because he's the only one around that can do it, or that is physically able to do it. If he would have just looked up with maybe a couple of scratches on his face or something and like looked at and like just with all of his will looked to make sure the thing went over the side and then just kind of like did the whole head hitting the ground thing. Not necessarily passed out, just exhausted and beat up and that, but instead he looked at it like he would just, lay down on the road and, put his arm on his head or something, and just sat there. Even that little twinge would have made it that much more, at least as far as character impact in that sense. The rest of the ending, though, no. I was like we talked about. I came out of the theater thinking, okay, they had an hour and 40 minutes to do this film, which seems short. It was it was a great movie. Like, it didn't drag. It was all, go, go, go. They could have used 10 more minutes and made a far better ending than that. It just seemed like it rushed to that point, and then gets to the end, and I don't know what in the world they were trying to go for, but when the bomb hits the water, it doesn't even go into the water. It just kind of like hits the surface and goes off.
Yeah.
Right next to this huge bridge, which apparently doesn't seem any affected at all about it. And apparently just hitting the surface of the water is enough to completely dissipate any impact from the bomb.
Yeah.
That kind of ruined the ending for me.
Well, in general, like, once it got to the point where Jack is... I don't know. I was for a moment buying into it. Like, I was at least buying into the tension of it all, because I was relieved that at least Jack was out of under Wall Street, but at the same time he was trying to drive around and figure out where to put the bomb, because he was trying to get the bomb to the water. Yeah, like, the second I actually physically reacted when he looked in the mirror and he saw the Russian dude still back there. I was just like, I literally went, oh, like, not in a bad way, but I was just like, oh, there's more going on right now. But yeah, I'm almost in total agreement with you. It was kind of ridiculous with it going off in the water. Like, once it got to the part where they were. No, it got ridiculous the second he did the seatbelt to the wheel thing, and he set it on cruise control, and he went to the back of it.
Right, that's what set it all downhill, because then he did that and rolled 75,000 times and didn't, get hurt at all.
Well, that and the fact they were fighting in the back of a moving van that nobody was driving, and then he rolled off. Like, I was just like, oh my god!
And then the guy just stands in the back as he rolls off and doesn't do anything. He just sits in the car as a guy. I mean.
Yeah,
it's not like he jumped out, at the last possible second. There was a good, 500 feet between where they were and where the barrier was. But the guy just sort of sat there.
I don't think the guy had any. Either way, the guy was going to kill himself. He had no intention of living in the first place. So that is
that's true. Whatever. It's still again. I don't know what did they ever mention exactly what kind of bomb it was? Like, it wasn't a nuclear bomb. But...
No, it wasn't, because the only reason like that Ryan kind of reacted the way he did when he saw the bomb, I don't think he imagined it was going to be as big, but he saw plenty of liquid barrels or the liquid containers in there, and was just like, oh, like he thought it was bigger than he thought it was.
Well, it was all about where they were going to position it to be able to take down 6 or 7 buildings, I think is what they said, because of the way that it was. But at the same time, again, it wasn't supposed to be a chemical weapon that unleashes anthrax on everybody.
Yeah.
But it literally, like, it was such a quick cut from that to the next scene that, I mean, there wasn't like a lasting shot. It was just like a really quick shot of the explosion, and then they're like got away from it. But it looked bad. It just felt rushed, and it was an uneven ending to an otherwise really good movie. I felt.
I liked. Well, okay. So that was kind of the negative of it, and I think as far as positive, it was overall, for the most part, I think very true to the character. Outside of the very end of the movie, I didn't feel it was too actiony or anything. I felt like what?
No, I agree with you. On that.
Oh, okay. But I liked the characterization of Kathy and Jack and what was the Kevin Costner's character's name? Do you know? Off the top of your head?
Can't remember.
Oh yes,
I don't remember his name. Yeah, I'm bad with names in this movie. I was expecting.
I think it was like Carver or something like that, or
I don't know that. I guess they did say his name or whatever.
They did say his name, but Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit. Let's see here. It was.
I love their relationship.
Thomas Harper.
Was really
Harper.
That's right.
And Chevron was the bad guy.
Chevron.
What
was it?
Chevron.
No, I know it wasn't Chevron. I was just making a joke before.
Yes. Yeah, I made that joke earlier, so good job.
Gas. Oil.
Awkward science.
Yeah, so...
Well, anyway...
Depends on your definition of awkward.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think this is the definition right here.
There we go.
Now I'm intentionally doing it. Okay, so anyway, yes. I thought Kevin Costner was great as the Morgan Freeman character, and I thought Kenneth Branagh was really good as that. I thought he was pretty good as the bad guy. I don't think there was they had dimension to the bad guy, and I like the amount of time they spent with the bad guy, but I felt like there was no, when they do these things where the bad guy knows that the good guy is the good guy, and the good guy knows the bad guy is the bad guy, it felt like the dance, the song and dance between them wasn't that great. Like, there was a lot of times where something would happen where I was just, like, thinking to myself, why isn't the bad guy doing anything right here? Because he obviously knows that Ryan did this, but he's letting him go anyway.
Are you referring to their initial conversation in person?
No, I'm referring to after the drive was stolen. When, after the drive was stolen with all the information on it, they let him go, even knowing he really, it wasn't even, the only reason he would let him go is if he, in my mind, is if he legitimately thought he didn't take it. But he knew he was involved with the taking of it, because immediately after, he, completely had full retribution on the entire situation. He just went up to
he made reference to the CIA and him before that.
Yeah. Well, that was just to kind of make him nervous. But
he sent the guy to kill him right at the beginning.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, why at this point, after all of this illegal activity has happened, and they know you're a bad guy?
We must find who it is.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, okay, so they let him go with the drive, and then 5 minutes later, he's going to shoot up the place and steal his wife, fiance. So it's like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just kidnap them right there? You had no reason to let them go. Other than to maybe find out what the drive was. But, even then.
Well, not only that, but they had to show, their safe house and, have an action scene there. Because they had to fill time to get to an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, you think they would just you think they would have just kidnapped them right there and use them as leverage in order to get the information. Yeah. But you would think maybe the CIA wouldn't do that, but I don't know. It seemed kind of like the song and dance part was really kind of played for kind of, it was kind of force played. But at the same time
yeah, go ahead.
What? I was going to say, at the same time, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy some of that interaction. I just felt like, it's like, okay, you're caught at this point. There's no getting away. Oh, you got away? Okay. It just seemed kind of weird. But
did you notice the not so overt, complete and utter advertising for Microsoft?
The tablet?
Windows on your phone?
Tablet?
Oh my God. How many times did they cut away to somebody using a phone and using their Windows apps?
Well, yeah, Ryan was using his tablet to search stuff, at the beginning of the movie.
I mean, it might as well just come out and cut a commercial for 10 seconds on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to pay for the
CIA.
You got to pay for the movie somehow, and if that's what pays to make a Jack Ryan movie, I don't really care that much.
No,
but
for sure.
you got to have sponsorships, but.
Yeah, I just got a new computer, oddly enough, and same thing. I'm just getting used to all the apps. So I recognized it because I now have a setup similar to that. So I thought that was kind of funny.
But like I said, I liked the characterization. I liked that there was, like I said before, there were elements of some of the books. The book it reminded me most of, with some of the references, was Cardinal of the Kremlin, which is my favorite Jack Ryan book. Because Chevron specifically talked about the Mujahideen and stuff like that, and that's stuff that's right at the beginning of that book. Because I think he said he had shrapnel from potentially, from one of your American weapons, and he was like, "Oh, I wouldn't say that," and he's like, "Well, wasn't your American CIA, supplying the, the Mujahideen?"
Well, it grounds it into the universe, and it genuinely felt like a Jack Ryan movie. It felt like a, it genuinely felt like it. Like you said about the action, it wasn't overly actiony. It was sold as sort of the action movie, but. Again, it's like Into Darkness. All you saw in the trailer was action, 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 and literally 20 minutes of the film is action. The rest of it is nothing, no action at all. So
it's just how you have to sell it,
right? And well, first of all, it's sad that you have to sell it that way.
That's unfortunate. It's to get the audience that it's to go outside of the target audience and get the real target audience that's going to come in and
flashy
it's kind of
explosions and
it's kind of ridiculous that you have to draw people in by just the basic like explosions, running, gunshots. Like you have to get the stupid people who would go to see it, and then the core audience who is like, us, people who like the movies, who like the books, and then people who just like the genre. They like the spy action genre kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really liked the scene, the car chase scene where Pine was trying to catch up to Chevron and Kathy and the whole light bulb thing. I really liked how protective Ryan was. I think he said before to Harper, before they went to the dinner, he's like, if he touches her, I'll kill him. Right there, because that's I saw a little bit of Harrison Ford there, because you and I quote the scene all the time where he goes to the bar after the IRA outright attacks his family, his wife and his daughter. He goes to the bar, the pub where the IRA representative guy who has been on the news and everything, he goes and threatens him. He's like, I'll bring, I just saw the glimpses of Harrison Ford there because he was so intense on protecting his family, essentially. But you and I love that,
I didn't kill
throwing
my
rocks. I'll bring the cameras into my daughter's, hospital room, and you'll lose all of your funding, and you'll be out on the streets throwing rocks. I love that.
Yes. No, there was a similarities between, in my view, similarities between him and Harrison Ford, similarities between him and Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Affleck. Ben Affleck. There was a scene where he was coming out of the helicopter and he was wearing Affleck's sweater, as when he wore it.
Oh, yeah, for the end?
Yeah, he just looked, it was it was so weird how they did it. Credit to Paramount or whatever, I guess, random coincidence. But it was like the end of Star Trek, the new 2009 Star Trek. He felt like Kirk at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And much more so after Into Darkness. But I also noticed, too, and this isn't just based on the Kirk thing, he has a charisma about him, like Chris Pine does, that reminds me somewhat of Shatner. It's really strange. He has this natural charisma. It's not over as much as Shatner's is, but he's very, easygoing, and I mean, it just works. That scene where he was playing the drunk, again during that scene with his wife and the bad guy.
Yeah.
It just amazes me how natural that is for him. It just seems like he's so natural. He's naturally talented. He's naturally gifted.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fun
and
to
that's
watch.
And that's another thing that Jack Ryan would do. He could there was again in Cardinal of the Kremlin a situation where he had to play being drunk. He had to play up that he was that he had lost a lot of money in the stock market, and I think he was being either it was news that he was that he had lost money or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but there's something that made it look like he could potentially do a deal with the bad Russians. I don't know. I'm going off on a random tangent, but I think he had to act drunk at one of those points. So,
right.
But yeah, no, I completely agree. And I don't know. He does remind me of Shatner in a sense, but he also reminds me of Harrison Ford for some reason. I don't know why.
Yes.
It just that,
well,
like you said, natural charisma.
Yeah, and again, more so because, you saw him being vulnerable, which is Harrison Ford's strength. That's the best quality he has. He can be the everyman. He doesn't, you wouldn't seem to think of it by looking at him. He looks like a movie star. He, feels like it, but he plays like the everyman to everybody. He seems like the normalest person ever. Yeah. And he plays it like you feel like his loss would be your loss, because now how would you react in that situation? The same as he does, he does. So there is a similarity there that I would agree with.
But I any other specifics on the movie that you would want to talk about?
I'm actually a little bit anxious to get into. I don't know if it's the final topic or the next one. I'm anxious to get on to the next one. I mean, do you want to do? Are we still doing ratings for these? Did we do ratings for the old movies? I forget.
I think we might have, but we should
10
probably
million
just give...
stars for this. One.
I don't know if I want to keep doing ratings. I think I'm
it doesn't have to be like
at a point where
I would
more so past the rating system, where it's just like I would definitely recommend you guys go see it.
That's what I was going to say. I would recommend this movie for Jack Ryan fans, for people that have no idea what Jack Ryan is or who he is.
And if not, if you're into the spy espionage kind of. Like, if you're into that sort of genre, this is your in for this series. And if not, if you like this movie, I would also urge you check out Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, those films. Those are really good movies. They still stand on their own, and you don't have to necessarily, outside of the 2 Harrison Ford movies, see them in any sort of order. But even then, you don't have to. Like,
yes, I believe The Hunt for Red October is still on Netflix too. I'm dropping Netflix. Go check it out on Netflix.
On Netflix, Thomas. Are we sponsored by Netflix?
No.
Oh, I
wish.
just
felt like doing that for some reason.
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yes. You still have a profile on my Netflix account. Like, I had created a Tom profile on Netflix, and it's still there.
But it's separate from the one I have now?
It's just since when we were both, like, in the same house, yes. So I just set up a different thing, so we had different queues, I think was the idea. It is still on Netflix, by the way.
Gotcha. Well, I would like to lead us into our next topic, if you would not mind. Because I am of 2 minds with this one. And I have very strong opinions on both sides.
Okay, I know what the next one is.
Very new. This just is, within the last day or two, a couple days. So it's timely and it's perfect. Apparently, and I haven't read every article about it, but I know some of the details. Apparently, Quentin Tarantino threw a rage fit over his script for his next Western getting leaked. Now, when I saw the article headline, or the sub-headline, the tagline or whatever, it made it seem like it was leaked to the public, like so everybody could read it, and everybody knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
Further explanation, as of yesterday, I haven't read anything new today, but as of yesterday was that he gave it to a few of he gave the script to this project to a few of the actors, who then
it leaked around Hollywood.
Right. One of them gave it to their agent, who then leaked it around Hollywood. Now, that doesn't mean it was leaked to the public, but it was leaked in the business.
Yes.
So he got pissed and said, I'm not doing it. I'm not saying I'm never going to do it, but that was my next film. I'm not going to do it anymore.
He was done with that incarnation of it, and he might re-rate it.
Right. He said he was going to publish it, whatever that means. I don't even know what he's talking about when he's talking about publishing it. Like, what does that do? Like,
I'm assuming he's going to publicly publish the script as written.
Well, I figured anyway, whatever he has now, he's probably going to change anyway because it's years down the road again until he gets to it. But yeah, so he's not going to do this now. He's going to move on to the next one. Okay. Which is fine.
I think his quote was, "There are 10 more where that came from."
Yeah, I saw that too, and I kind of laughed when I heard that. I was like,
"That cocky bastard."
Yes,
but it's true.
You are a great writer, and you are a great filmmaker, and you've done a lot of great films. Kill Bill is like one of the best, my favorite of all time. Not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites of all time.
My phone's going off. Continue.
I was gonna say, is that? Oh, okay. I thought that was like a random advertisement coming in or something. Okay, so you have. Yeah, he's a great filmmaker, great writer, all that stuff. Now, on one side of the equation, I can understand it, because he is tired. He seems sick and tired of the way the system's set up. He doesn't like, seemingly, to have to deal with the way the system's set up and stuff. That seems to be why he uses the same people over and over again. And I think Christoph Waltz is going to move into his house. I think they're just...
Probably
going to get married or something.
I mean, if he wants more Oscars, he could certainly... He can just... His room could be the Oscar room.
And Michael Madsen, who I already thought was living with him, and they had kids together, apparently was the one who did it, who leaked it.
Oh, seems. Really?
Well, yeah, it was one of... He said he knew it wasn't Tim Roth. It was either Tim Roth, him, or some other guy. So it seemed like the article that I read was leaning towards Madsden, which to me makes no sense at all. Why would you even risk anything with Tarantino if you're Madsden? He's the only reason the guy is in anything. Is because of Tarantino.
Yeah.
But anyway, so on one side, I understand
that. Hold on, that, and he's still living off of the Free Willy glory there.
Oh,
Thomas.
of course.
Don't even forget Free Willy.
Oh, of course, Free Willy. How many movies did they make of that? Like 3 or 4?
Well, he was in all 3 of the first 3 at least.
I thought he was
They've done
only
a
in
new
the first
generation.
one. See, that shows you how much I know. I don't.
No, he was in all. We had the 3rd one on VHS. What are you talking about? It came with
remember
a orca like bracelet thing.
Was that the movie that is that the reason why the Vancouver Canucks changed their logo into a Willy, Free Willy, after that movie?
Maybe, who knows?
Somebody find.
Well, hold on. Before you continue, I understand. I think the article I read kind of, well, at least the quote, like, I understand the mentality where it's like, I trusted the people I gave this to. If they aren't going to, like, keep that trust or, like, treasure that trust, I don't want to work with them. Like, I understand that. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you do this with my script that I trusted you with, this isn't going to get done. Like, if you're going to leak it out.
I'm sure he didn't even have to say that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I understand the action behind it, if it's that sort of thing. But you can continue out what you're saying.
Okay, well, I'll try to wrap it up here because I could rant on and on forever about anything.
Yes.
But so on one side of the equation, I understand his frustration. I share it in a lot of ways because I don't like a lot of industry stuff either. Just personally and as a fan of movies, I think a lot of the stuff that's done and the way things are done is stupid. But that's a whole nother story. So I understand why he's upset. On the other hand, Quentin Tarantino can be the whiniest whiner in the history of whining. Seriously. I mean, the guy has to have something to complain about all the time, it seems like. I don't know why. He's one of the best filmmakers. He's one of the most well-known filmmakers of all time. And for some reason, I just feel like he has to have something to complain about or something to, piss and moan about, or else people will forget about him, which is ridiculous because nobody will ever forget about him. I understand he's crazy. I understand he's a little out there, but I think this is much to do about nothing, considering that it wasn't a leak in the sense of that I indicated earlier. And I mean, he could have made a couple of changes to it if he really needed to, and would have been fine with it, even if he wanted to replace one of the actors. No problem, okay. But to scrap the whole thing just because, somebody may have broken a loyalty, to me, I mean, how many people work on a film? It's not just you. There's actors and crew and all this stuff. So, coming from somebody that has complained about things in the past, I think he went a little overboard.
Yeah. I mean, like completely scrapping the project is a little bit of a overdramatic move, but I mean, there are reasons to and reasons not to, and pros and cons to both, and it is a bit of an overreaction. But and like you said, specifically when if it's just an in-industry thing that's happened, as opposed to out to the public where it could ruin the movie, like people either might not go see it or as a filmmaker, you want to make something that people, don't know what they're going to see going into it, preferably, I think, for most filmmakers. So,
there's a lot of books that get made into movies, too.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't know. I could see where he's going, and I completely agree with you. He's a weird dude, and he's one of those people that I'm not a huge fan of the way he acts publicly sometimes, because he can be either a jackass or he can just, like, I've seen him on talk shows where he had to have been loaded. And
sometimes he's just a bully too. Like he'll bully interviewers who might ask him a slightly off question, but then he'll go
and get really defensive.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I've seen that happen too. So like, he's one of those guys who I think would be weird to interact with, like, but when it comes to his films, he has such a sharp wit, and like he has such great insight into characters, and just creates these movies that are such a pleasure to watch. Like, even if it's a movie that is dealing with something relatively hard, like Django had, really kind of tough elements of like violence against a race or just like some really nasty stuff. And
well, and like I like that about, like, I like the fact that he, and people criticize him about not being historically accurate sometimes, but I like that he kind of empowers the people that were, in, like, with the Nazis, killing
and
Hitler,
Inglourious Bastards,
right,
completely rewriting time,
and the slaves getting their masters and just getting the better of them. I love that because you wouldn't see that otherwise. Where would you see that? So I think he doesn't get enough credit for those things. But again, he might get more credit if he wasn't a crazy loon. So, there's that. But we're all a little crazy here and there, so whatever. But I don't know. And again, neither of us really know enough about it to, say one way or another for sure. But it just seems like you said, a little bit of an overreaction.
Yes, sir.
But
I concur.
That's the way it is. And interestingly enough, I apparently I've taken this show over.
That's all right. It's all right.
But interestingly enough, kind of segueing into the other thing was, he's done work for Miramax and stuff in the past who were associated with the Weinsteins, who this is the other sort of rantish thing. Apparently,
welcome to Tom's Rants.
Tom's Rants, and we'll put a Z on the end of it just to make it kind of coincide with Danz. Apparently, the Weinsteins were in the news because half of them, or at least, I don't know if both of them are the same.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey.
Now, I hadn't even heard of this until you mentioned it before we started this, so this was interesting.
Big thing going on in the country with guns and the whole debate in Hollywood glorifying violence and gun use. And apparently now Harvey Weinstein has come out and said that he is no longer going to make movies that object or glorify violence and use weapons and this kind of thing. Now, this is the guy that's made a career off of making these movies and who probably has at least 2 or 3 years worth in the pike that are already in the works that he's not going to shut down right now. He said he's not going to do any more in the future. So all the while over the next couple of years, you're going to see more Weinstein Company movies that glorify violence. It's just, even if you were going to do that, it was a terrible decision to say it now. You might have wanted to put that in practice before you said it so it was more timely. But I came, and this kind of coincides with, I came out of the movie after watching Jack Ryan today. And it was clear as day. It was awesome. There was a dad who took his kid to go see this movie. The kid couldn't have been more than 8 years old. And I thought, you know what? That's probably a really good parent. He went and took his kid to see this movie.
A rated R film.
About what's that?
A rated R film. I'm pretty sure.
Was it rated R?
Nah, maybe not.
I don't think so because I'm pretty sure it's PG-13. They're a little smarter than that.
I was absolutely wrong. It is PG-13.
Yeah, because there was only one.
For some reason, going in, I thought it was rated R. They said fucker.
Yeah, fucking.
Fucking.
But they said fucking. That's not a fucking something really. But there was only a couple of shits. But there really wasn't a whole lot of language in it. The rest of it was just the action. But again, and they were talking. I heard parts of what they were talking about and stuff. And he was talking about Jack Ryan, and he was explaining to him about Jack Ryan's past and stuff like that. And I thought that was awesome. That's a father who's seen these movies, who might have read the books or whatever, teaching his son or taking his son to see these movies so that a next generation can enjoy these films.
Yeah.
If that was, the measure of everybody that saw cinema and stuff, of course we don't live in a perfect world, but to me, that just, I don't get it. I don't get how movies are the cause of everything. I understand Hollywood likes to jump, and they will make money doing anything. They will make money railing for causes, and then being in the news for being, on the other side of the thing because, they object women and they glorify violence and all this stuff. But I just don't understand. If you don't want to make movies about it, fine, but don't make a big deal about it. because you've made your entire career has been about
yeah
this.
it's mildly hypocritical to say I am now taking a stance against this when you have been perpetuating the same thing that you have been talking about for like I'm looking at the Weinstein Company's produced movies, and there's a movie in 2009 called Kill Shot. But on top of that, they've produced the last few of Tarantino's films. They produced Inglourious Bastards and Killing Them Softly, which had incredible violence in that movie. There was really hardcore violence in that movie. Django Unchained, obviously, and more things recently. So, like, yeah, it's hard to. I don't know. It's. I mean, unless you're going to completely backpedal and say we're not going to distribute these movies anymore. Like you're going to continue making money off of the movies that you have produced that have that violence that you are perpetuating. So if you're going to have like this sudden moral compass now, where you're going to say we're not producing any in the future, why don't you say we're not going to perpetuate the ones that we've already. Like, well, I guess you probably have deals in place, but like, I'm sure you could do something about it as opposed to continuing making money off those films.
Well, this is the disconnect between real people and these people, and this is always going to be the reason why there is this disconnect, because they don't live in the same world. They live in their own little worlds, and they are to the point they are at now because of what they've done in the past. And now, once they get to a certain point where they don't have to do anything else the rest of their lives if they don't want to, they can sit back and say, okay, now I'm morally responsible. Now I'll be responsible and say, now I'm not going to make any more movies. Too bad about all this other stuff. I'm still going to make commissions, and I'm still going to get my fees off the rest of this stuff, distribution, all that stuff. But I'm just not going to make any more.
Yeah.
So,
well, this is kind of a similar case to recently I brought up beforehand. Jim Carrey, he... after the Sandy Hook shooting, that was a little over a year ago now, he had filmed a part in Kick-Ass 2, but after the shooting, he kind of had a change in heart when it came to gun control. Like he got a lot more behind the whole thing, the whole gun control thing, and the violence in films and stuff like that. So he didn't do promotion for Kick-Ass 2, and he specifically said on Twitter, "I'm sorry, I just can't condone the violence that's in that movie." And then recently he was in a movie where he had a cameo in a scene that was specifically pretty violent. Like, it was a scene that was I don't want to spoil the cameo because I don't want to spoil the movie, but a scene that he was specifically violently beating the crap out of people, and I was just like, and this was like half a year after Kick-Ass 2 came out. Like, I'm
was
surprised
he beating up people with a gun?
No, he wasn't, Thomas. He was using a blunt object. I think he was using a hockey stick, actually.
Hockey sticks,
but,
okay,
like,
guns are not.
That's still violence. Like, I don't understand how you can have I mean, I guess gun violence.
We're going to devolve off of film here a second, but that's the thing. That's what these people don't understand.
Law and Order here?
Yeah. Dun, dun. Can you edit it in right now?
Dude, no, that's too much work. Tom, this is a copyright and copyright.
Oh yeah, that's sound we wouldn't want to do that now, would we? Law and Order's Wednesday night. Check it out. NBC. And well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't even remember what I was going to say now, which is probably for the best because this is a film review show. This isn't about all this other stuff. We
spent a good time on Star Trek, but then again, that's a movie franchise as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
what else we got?
Well, now that we're an hour and a half into the podcast, we have Star Wars Episode 7. Obviously, I think on the second or third podcast, we at that time found out about the announcement of JJ taking over Star Wars for Disney.
JJ's taking it over?
Yes. This is a year ago. Wow. Can you believe it was a year ago?
It's crazy.
It's been so long. So things have happened since then. They pushed back, I believe, the release date because it was supposed to come out, I think, either summer of. I think it was supposed to come out summer 2015, but it's now coming out, I think, in the fall time. I believe. I could be wrong. But it got pushed back. I know it got pushed back because JJ wanted more time. He didn't feel comfortable because the date was already set before he was even hired.
Right.
And he wasn't comfortable with the.
It was
amount
less.
of time
It was
to
less
ramp
than
up
2 years.
production.
It was 2 years. I thought that was kind of a short amount of time.
Yeah. So he got them to push it back, I think half a year or so. Definitely not into 2016, but it's pushed back into later 2015. Recently, very recently, probably about a week ago, news came from. This is even. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Since then, they ended up dropping one of the scriptwriters. They dropped, I believe it was Simon Kinberg or something like Kinsberg, who was originally brought on by Disney before they brought on a director to write the movie. And JJ took on writing credit along with Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back. So him and Lawrence Kasdan ended up writing the script for this movie. I believe based off a story that him, Kasdan, and Kinsberg came up with. So it was they just news broke out last week, I believe. They just finished the script and they're ramping up, getting ready to shoot to start production. A lot of casting rumors have been going around recently. It's just like I don't think there have been any outside of the original cast that were I think confirmed to be returning.
But it's a feeding frenzy otherwise.
Yeah, it's like everybody is auditioning for that movie. It just reminds me of when they were. It reminds me of when they were auditioning for Superman or auditioning for Catwoman. Like, I just remember so many. Like, they just had like a long ass list of actors and actresses. So I see lights flickering. I think they're going to leave me. There's a couple of other
Tom
people
Cruise lining up to be in this movie too.
Who knows? I think there was something interesting casting wise that I thought would be really good. Not Benedict Cumberbatch, although there were rumors about that too. There was
that would
I
be
can't
too.
remember.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome, but at the same time, I mean, he'd be the bad guy in the last Star Trek movie and the bad guy in the new Star or a good guy. I mean, he can be a good guy.
Well,
too.
it's not like Nolan did that to perfection with his casting, So
yeah, but you have two. Like, I think JJ
who says
would
he has
get
to be a bad guy anyway? He didn't have to. He wouldn't
No,
have to
no. I know. But also, I think JJ would get a lot of flack from coming from the Star Trek movie and then casting people from the Star Trek movie into the Star Wars movie. I think he would probably get a lot of flack from Star Wars fans. I don't know, but probably dependent.
Yeah. Well, if they love the movie, they won't care. But just as an aside, you gotta think JJ's having the time of his life right now.
He's working with he's working with George Lucas a little bit, and the writer of Empire Strikes Back, arguably the best Star Wars movie. It's a lot of people's favorite. And he's working on a new Star Wars movie. So I mean, the guy's in Candyland.
Yeah.
So
and it's going to be I mean, I just can't see how this movie could possibly fail. This is going to be. No. I think this will be. I don't know that it could physically. I don't even know if it's capable to catch Avatar, but it's going to come close if it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you have the might of Disney, who is coming off of their. So many companies were reporting this year. I believe it was. Universal. I think it was Universal. I at least know specifically Disney had their highest grossing year ever this year. Between Iron Man and Thor and their animated films, and like they have made so much money because Iron Man made like $1 billion by itself. So next year is going to be absolutely insane for them with the Avengers coming out. So with the Avengers and Star Wars, like the movie could be complete and utter crap, and they will spend $500 million marketing it, and it will make so much money.
That's the thing. This is a guaranteed slam dunk. The question is whether or not it's going to be so good because JJ's behind it. It'll be so good to where it'll make so much money just because it's good. It's already going to make way more than they spend on it, no matter what they do.
Yeah.
They could it could be 2.5 hours of the old cast watching themselves in the first 3 movies. That could be the next Star Wars movie, and it would be marketed, and they would make enough money off of it. But I'm serious. I just think I don't think this film's getting the Avatar budget. I'm pretty sure it's not. But
I have no idea.
Yeah, even so, I can't see how they couldn't catch them. I know it's it's $3 billion, whatever, but this is Star Wars. Star Wars was the highest grossing film forever, and that was back in the day. Now it's JJ, and now it's the technology and Disney. I don't see how it can lose.
Yeah, I mean, they have a good creative team behind it. They have, they have it all. They have the money to back it up, and it's
the Lucas sort of approach. The Lucas backing and all that stuff, but JJ knows how to tell a story, and he's not going to fill it with crap dialogue, and nonsense that a lot of the, especially some of the newer Lucas Star Wars films had.
Yeah.
So,
looking at his career, I mean, this guy has certainly established his own style. But at the same time, he's had projects like Super 8 where it was a love note to Spielberg movies. This is his chance to work legitimately on a Lucas movie. Like, he is George Lucas. Like, before he was emulating Spielberg, but at the same time mainly paying homage and still doing his own thing. But this is like he is taking over a George Lucas Spielberg. Was Spielberg a producer on Star Wars? Yes, I believe so. No?
No, not on Star Wars.
It was Lucas who was a producer on
Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Indiana Jones movies. Yeah,
he was a producer on all the movies, all the Indiana Jones movies. But this is his chance to take over and be Lucas. This is his chance to make the movie he grew up idolizing.
Right, and like some people seem to think that Star Trek was sort of his stepping stone to do this film. I think that's just the way it worked out. I don't know that it necessarily was, but I don't see he'll give up Star Trek. I don't think he'll ever, unless they don't want to keep him involved anymore. But if they want to keep him involved, he'll never leave Star Wars. This will be his baby for the end of time.
You think he's going to keep directing Star Wars forever?
Well, he'll be involved.
I mean, he's already. I don't think he's going to drop Star Trek. He'll be involved with Star Trek as well.
No, but
he's.
Yeah, I think he'll still produce and all that stuff on Star Wars down the road once he's not directing and writing and stuff. But I don't see him being involved. I don't think Bad Robot and producing and that kind of thing he will be around for Star Trek for much beyond the 3rd film. Probably the 4th, maybe ish. I don't know, but I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe he's still. I'm almost certain. I'm pretty sure he still has his foot in Mission Impossible. And he produced the last one. He didn't direct. Well, I remember I remember the interview he did with Stern. I think it was. He did an interview with Stern where he was talking about he doesn't even know some of the stuff his name is on. Like he asked him.
I never saw the.
He asked him if he had watched the new TV show that was the new J.J. Abrams show. Had he seen it yet? He said
God,
no. He said I don't even know. They come into the office. They pitch the idea. If we want to work on it or have somebody at Bad Robot work on it, okay, then my name is put on it, basically. So
he had that Alcatraz
he has
show
nothing
on
to do
Fox.
with. Like all these executive producing things he does, he has nothing to do with.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could probably leave his name on. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, it's awesome for him, and I'm. This is the first time I'm genuinely excited for it because I'm not the biggest Star Trek or Star Wars fan. Excuse me. But I am genuinely excited to see how good this next one is going to be.
Absolutely. Yep. So that was supposed to lead into our Into Darkness, but we already kind of talked about Into Darkness. Yeah. So
great movie. Watch it.
But going off of what you were saying specifically, mentioning Avatar, well, over our gap of not doing this podcast, it was announced that. Well, it had been announced a long ass time ago that they were going to make 2 more Avatar movies and make it a trilogy. Well, James Cameron came out recently and said that the next incarnations of Avatar, it's not only going to be Avatar 2 and 3, it's going to be Avatar 2, 3, and 4, and they're going to shoot all 3 of them back to back.
Wow, really? This has been out for a while now?
This came out relatively more, I think, a few months ago.
Oh.
The biggest news about it recently was that they signed on Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington and Stephen Lang, who died in the first movie. He was the "You're not in Kansas anymore" guy. He's signed on for more Avatar movies.
Well, they're not going to get rid of him, even though he's dead. There's some way they could keep him involved somehow.
Yeah. Well, like they said, it's sci-fi. It's Pandora. They can bring back whoever the fuck they want, I guess. But so
he'll come back as the leader of the other people. Like they'll reincarnate him and change his ways, and
yeah, maybe.
He'll become the new leader.
He's going to be the new leader. Yeah, Jake Sully is off, screwing Neytiri somewhere in the woods, and he's just like, okay, we're leaving Pandora, so you won't be on Pandora anymore. That'll be him doing it.
He goes back to Earth and reforms Earth, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, they don't even, in the original cut of the film, they don't even go on Earth, but in the extended edition, they have a brief stint on Earth where they show Earth, and it's kind of like this neo-futuristic place. But so Avatar 2, 3, and 4, it's going to be 3 movies, and they're all going to be shot in New Zealand. I guess they're setting up their studios there. Like, that was a big deal they made. Apparently they have great I think I hope I have the article still pulled up. I totally don't.
That is
the article. What?
That is
what?
If you really sit and think about it, that's kind of a ballsy move.
What do you mean?
Because Peter Jackson had a track record over 3 movies. With Lord of the Rings before he gave, I'm sorry, who am I thinking of here? Yeah,
Peter Jackson.
He did the same thing, right? He made all 3 in a row, right?
Yeah, for The Hobbit as well as Lord of the Rings, he filmed all of them.
Right. Okay, so I was getting this. Okay, that was all the same thing. I get them confused with the other one. What's the other one?
What? Shot at the same time?
No, I'm thinking of Harry Potter. I'm sorry. I get these medieval, older, weird movies. Kind of. I know I'm in the minority. I've never seen the first 2 Lord of the Rings movies. I will at some point. Maybe I'll be better educated about.
Oh yeah, you saw the third one because of me.
Right,
because you took me to the theater.
I have no frame of reference of what's going on. I don't know. And then I watched The Hobbit with our sister Haley, and again, no clue what the hell's going on. 2 hours and 45 minutes of pure boredom for me. But maybe if I had gone back and anyway. So, but I mean, they're going to make 3 more movies about. I get the sequel. Like, I get making the sequel. This is the highest grossing film of all time. Of course, they're going to at least whore it out at least one more time.
Yeah.
Why, with the story they told, how much of an arc is this story going to have? 8 hours more worth of movie?
Supposedly, a lot of, I guess, the second movie is going to take place underwater. I don't know. I remember an article came out for James Cameron saying all the stories he had left to tell, he could tell through the Avatar movies. That's what he said. Like, any other stories he wanted to tell, he would tell through the Avatar films. I don't know what that meant, and I don't know if that still holds true, but that's something he said.
What company is this now? Is this Paramount?
20th Century Fox.
Okay.
And Lightstorm Entertainment.
Okay.
By the way, hold on. I pulled up the article and remember what I wanted to say. It says the 3 sequels will be shot back to back with reportedly significant subsidies from the New Zealand government.
Oh, of course. Are you kidding me? They're bringing in huge business.
Well,
for the production.
This is really great because this happens to coincide with probably around the time the last Lord of the Rings movie is. Actually, the first one's supposed to come out in December of 2016. So yeah, this is probably going to be right after The Hobbit leaves town. That's when Avatar's going to move in,
right?
Like, because they're going to be done.
Well, New Zealand must be crapping in their pants over this stuff. But
oh yeah.
Yeah, well, they'll be the hub. They'll be a hub for. I mean, they already are a hub anyway, but more so now.
Which is surprising for such a small, well, not small, but such a relatively small island. Like,
yes,
it's crazy.
It's a gorgeous island. Apparently, it's a great place. The
Well,
thing about
it has a lot to offer filmically.
yes. Thing about this is, I know this is going to sound kind of silly, but it seems like a roll of the dice. When you're talking about 3 movies and the subject matter that they taught, at least going off of what was in the first one. Okay, the technology's great. All right. But people get tired of the same thing over and over again. Like the technology was a thing. You know, it was more about all the scope.
Sparked
and
the 3D revolution.
Right. And then, okay, now the shine has worn off. Okay, so now the stories better be damn good. Because if they're not damn good and they're not rehashes of 18 things that have done 18 million times, we know the story. Okay, we're bad, tree's good. We get it. Now,
military bad, tree's good.
Arg, 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 we're coming to
fire!
House down. Fire and bad. So, okay, if you're going to tell that story 3 more times, and you're just going to continually try to improve the technology aspect of it, by the 4th one, they're going to bankrupt 20th Century Fox. Because these are movies that the first... Now, I know the budgets are... there's no way they're getting $1.5 billion to make these 3 films. So I don't know what the budget...
Know. I want to say... Well, let me look up what the budget for the first one was. But
I
want to say the budget for the... Was it?
It's $500 million. I don't know. It might have been more than that. But that's just the production.
I don't think it was much more than that. If it was.
It was $500 million. It was by far the biggest production budget.
$242. Yes, I remember it was pretty huge. Let's see here.
I'm going to eat my hat if it's not.
Production budget was $425, and that's around what I thought it was.
How much?
$425 million.
That seems low.
Well, I mean, you don't count marketing for that. Production budget.
Okay. So
no, production budget. That was like, I remember before that, like one of the biggest budgets I had heard of was $250 million for Superman Returns. That was an astronomical number, and then this came out.
Right. $440 million. So, I mean, are they getting $1 billion to make the next 3 movies? You'd think it'd have to be at least that.
Well, the first one earned, $2.7 billion.
Yes. They made a $2.2 billion profit off of the production budget. Yes. However, again, if they're just going to go with the visual aspect of this, and they're already set out to make 3 movies, if they're going to commit like $1.2 billion to this, I don't know. Maybe it won't be such an astronomical failure.
No, I don't think. I think the thing about doing it in New Zealand, a big problem for the first movie was establishing a pipeline of workflow, because essentially what they were doing was they were filming on a stage where it was all, like a lot of it wasn't real. Like huge sections of the movie was all CGI.
Oh yeah.
So you had elements where they were filming in mocap suits, and they had to send that data through a pipeline to some, visual effects company, or they had to, because Weta Workshops, which is based in New Zealand, which is Peter Jackson's visual effects company, did a fair amount of work on that movie. And in order to send all of that data, you have to set up establish really like high data transfer rates, which was, I think, an issue for that production, which slowed things down. Like that was a big thing, was just sending things back and forth and transmitting data and stuff like that. So I think with them being based in New Zealand, that's probably going to cut a lot of like that sort of cost, like actual logistical figuring out how to do that sort of stuff. So I think when you have like the amount of like technologies they developed for the first movie, which have been refined over a bunch of other productions at this point, I think it's going to be far cheaper. I think a lot of the cost went into developing new technology for the first movie. And not that they aren't going to push themselves to do that. I'm sure they'll push themselves to do something, because that's the kind of filmmaker that James Cameron is. He likes to push himself. He likes to create new technology so he can do things that haven't been done before. So,
arguably, the budget would be for the 3 movies around $1 billion, give or take a few.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, like, they'll make it back. And there's no risk in them not making it back. But nowadays, it's not even enough to make your money back. You have to make a certain portion over the budget to be considered
Yes.
a success. So
Absolutely.
if the second movie is okay and then the third one bombs, I mean, again, this particular instance, it doesn't seem like a good idea. Like The Lord of the Rings did, and The Hobbit obviously does, but it's just the type of story that this is. This isn't, a book, and it's not from, these epic tales that people know and love. It's the regurgitated retread from a million different other movies. And I just
Mainly
feel
Pocahontas.
and Pocahontas, yeah. They could have...
Everybody made the comparison of Pocahontas and Fern Gully.
They could have took a millionth of the budget and made Pocahontas and remade Pocahontas, and they could have told the same story.
Yeah.
So, but why do that when you can spend $440 million and tell a story? But anyway,
In a sci-fi epic.
yeah, sci-fi epic. My foot. It had what sci-fi was in it other than them having sex in a lit forest with no light. So, I mean,
Well, it takes place on a different planet.
Right? No, yeah, okay. That's the sci-fi aspect of it. That there's life on another planet. I mean, that's
Thomas, the sci-fi aspect is the fact that they're putting their consciousnesses in alien avatars.
Right. Okay, I forgot about that.
That was the whole.
Actually.
Yeah, that was the big crux of the movie as well.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, I suppose. Okay, but
I
that's
think
more
that might be some
technological
science
than-
and some fiction
It
there.
seems more.
Thomas, that's science fiction.
Yes.
That is what it is by definition.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is like it's not as.
It was a
it's
science
more
fiction
reality-based,
romance
I guess,
movie.
than anything.
Science fiction action romance. That's what it
Okay.
was. Like
Whatever.
it's
Romance, yeah, there was romance and stuff, but
an unobtainium. Anyway.
Why did you even bring that up? I wish you'd have never said that. 'Cause that's my whole point about the whole movie. It's the most lazy. Like, everything else is amazing and the effects are great and there was a lot of hard work.
Well, they could have called it MacGuffin. They could have called it something retarded like that.
Well, sure, but yeah, you don't hear the term MacGuffin in the movie. You hear them talk about it. They don't.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the MacGuffin for our movie.
But you don't call something that's unobtainable unobtainium. It's like calling.
But apparently it's readily obtainable on Pandora.
Oh, and then they call it Pandora to begin with, Pandora's Box, which is the stupidest thing ever. And
don't
it
open
almost
that.
sounds like they did it to try to get Pandora Radio to sponsor them or something. So
Launch Pandora Radio's career.
I'm sure.
Well,
And
anyway.
people are like, welcome to Pandora. Whatever.
Well, anyway, Thomas has a clear opinion on Avatar.
I don't because I like James Cameron and I love Titanic. Titanic's one of my favorite movies too. But where the hell if
I like
had that-
Avatar.
I just wish they would have actually wrote a story for this film. It would have been nice to go along with
Yeah.
all the shiny, nice technology.
I think there was a part where they blew up a tree or something like that. Anyway, I think that is actually, surprisingly enough, for us spending like an hour and a half talking about Star Trek and Jack Ryan, I think we managed to actually hit all the topics that I had on my list here.
How about
in the
that?
last
And
half
I
hour.
just now cleared 2 hours on a recording, which means
I know I did as well. So that's
probably
actually
an
rather
hour and
coincidental.
50-ish minutes of show on here now. Hour
No, I think there's
55.
about an hour and a half of Star Trek we can cut out, and then we'll have a show in there somewhere.
You're gonna cut out the Star Trek stuff?
No, I'm not cutting out anything. I was joking.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, we don't edit this
Yes,
show.
it's a
This is a
podcast.
really low professionally done show.
Well, it's a podcast. I mean,
no,
it's
I'm
not like
kidding.
we have any sort
I'm
of...
kidding. We've got nice equipment. I mean, it's nice equipment for sure.
No, I don't
And,
think it's a nice equipment.
Well,
I'm kidding. We
I
just had
like
3
it.
instances in a row of kidding.
yes, we're kidding each other. Lots of kidding around. I like it. Fine
we kid.
and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I think this is a good length for our first debut show. Usually, because before, remember we were talking about we could go on forever and ever, but we were trying to keep it to like. Yeah, whatever. I don't know, 2 hours ish or less, or 90 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But no,
Like
this
2 hours is good.
this is I think
maximum
this is a good
length.
Yes, and I feel like I found my voice again. I'm so glad that we're doing this show because now I can expand upon it on whatever basis that we end up doing the show, and
Yeah.
just continue on and continue to develop my absolute love for film and film that is not Avatar. Let's put it that way.
Yes, sir. 2 hours is about the average length of the kind of the podcast before. I think I was just looking at the times. The first one was like an hour and a half, and then the other two were either. I think the second one was almost 2 hours, and the third one was over 2 hours. So,
gotcha. So we were getting progressively longer.
We totally didn't. We talked about this before we started it, and we didn't carry over the thread. The last podcast had a big cliffhanger because we talked about we were going to see all of the Die Hard marathon movies.
Oh, yes.
Because the fifth one was just coming out. You had done a review on your channel, on your YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel?
YouTube.com/SkywardCinema.
Well, it's going to be in the description anyway, so it's not like a big plug. Considering it's 2 hours
well,
in,
if
anybody
you've made
have
it
to get
to
to
this
it.
point, then you earn the free go to
Then you earn to look at his channel. So you already did your review of it at the time because
Yes.
we were dragging our feet for doing the new podcast anyway. So my review of the fifth one, it was poop.
Well,
but,
how about we do
I
this since we've hit 2 hours now, or pretty much close to it? Why don't we cliffhanger it again and make it a part of the next one?
I don't know if
or
we
you
want
to go into the whole thing now. I want to talk
no,
about,
I don't. What?
I want to talk about the whole series because I have many opinions on like the first.
That could be a
bunch
topic we talk about.
Yeah, I really would like to delve deep into that because I want this thing. I don't know. This is the re-debut of our show and all that stuff. I want this to get out there. I want to helm the next Die Hard movie before Bruce Willis is too old that he can't do them anymore. Please, for the love of God, let us do this next movie.
Well, from what I hear from many different accounts, good luck working with Bruce Willis.
I don't care what he's like. I want to give this character the proper send-off.
I don't care I don't know if he wants to give the character the same kind of send-off you're wanting.
What, does he want to whore him out like for another 10 more movies or something?
He was like a producer on the last two. Like he was like a creative like influence on the way those movies went. He wants John McClane to be a fucking superhero.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. I'll tell you what, after this crap goes on, 30 years from now, we'll do a remake, and we'll do it
Okay,
right.
Yes. Okay, we'll cast Chris Pine, and we'll get it going.
Who will be 63 at that point. Because we even had the title. Like, remember we talked about the title and how it was the perfect title for this film? Do you remember what it was called?
Oh, I can't type it in the Skype chat here, because I want to...
I was going to say it. Should I not say it?
Oh, yeah, no, tell me, because I forgot.
Only the Good Die Hard.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
yes,
one.
that was perfect.
I think you have a $1 billion movie right there.
Die Hard. I mean, it was perfect because it would be the end of John McClane.
Only the Good Die Hard.
You could do more, I guess, or whatever with the son, but it was perfect. Like, it would completely disregard the history of the last two movies. We would just say, forget it.
You're going to retcon it.
What is it?
Retroactively, I can't remember what
the first three movies are the
sentence.
only ones anybody cares about anyway, so forget the fourth and fifth one even happened. You
don't forget the second one, too. Just go for the first and third.
No! The second one looks like
joking.
Academy Award worthy compared to the fourth and
comparative.
The fifth. Less than the fourth one.
Whoa. I want to say, I was about to say, I like the fourth one. Okay?
Fourth one wasn't bad.
It is
ish.
It takes John McClane into the Jack Ryan territory where it's
right.
like he has to, like, for some reason, do everything. But
yeah.
Like there was a specific reason why the third one he had to do everything.
Right.
Because it was this, like, they had a very good explanation as to why he had to do all that shit. But for the fourth one, he's running around for no reason.
And then the fifth one is just the fifth one and leave it at that.
Yeah.
If you've seen the fifth one, I apologize for you having to endure that film, but I was so disappointed too, and I don't want to get into it, but I was so disappointed. Because we went to the thing, it was the marathon, watched all of them in a row, and I was so geeked up about it. Like, these movies are so awesome.
We were too. We were too.
And then it just ended and left such a sour taste in my mouth.
You know, it's one of those things where it's like, where did the character go? Like, what? Who is this? Like, I just watched 4 movies with the same character, and then I get to the fifth one, and it's like, who the hell is this that I'm watching? I don't understand.
It's just Bruce Willis now. It's not John McClane. It's Bruce Willis.
Yeah, exactly.
And who was the Joni? What's his name? Yoni something. Jai. The kid.
I don't.
Actor.
I can't remember the name of the son.
Jai Courtney.
It is
Jai Courtney.
Jai Courtney, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's Jay actually, but
Jai Courtney.
I always say Jai because it looks like it should be Jai.
Probably
but
why I say Jai.
You said apologies to anybody who watched the movie. I would say apologies to anybody who worked on the movie. I'm sure you'll work again. I mean, at some point. Honestly, there might have been a bad guy in that movie someplace for more than 10 minutes.
I don't remember anything. All I remember is the beginning of him shooting in the range and the end when he flips off the camera or something. Or whatever it was. That was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Yeah.
I think it ended with a sunset and his kids or something like that.
I'm sure it was bad. I don't really.
There's a bad guy. I think there's a twist. There's a point where they're at Chernobyl, but they didn't have radiation suits and they didn't get cancer. So I didn't understand.
Anytime
that
you have to bring Chernobyl into the film plot, you know it's bad.
Well, Transformers 3 did that.
Again, I rest my case.
Yeah, no, I brought that up specifically because Transformers 3, they allude to the fact that Transformers caused the meltdown.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Didn't they come from the moon in that one too? Wasn't that the whole
they
moon
also
thing?
were involved in the moon landing as well.
Yes, yeah, they were involved in the production in Hollywood because it was all fake.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, whoever's working on it, fire Bruce Willis if you have to. Give us the rights. We'll do. Yeah, we'll do it. But whatever we can convince Bruce Willis that there is some saving grace in doing a 6th Die Hard movie called Only the Good Die Hard, where it's the absolute epitome, final farewell, and it's the best tribute you could ever give to John McClane. We would make it the best movie ever.
His friends couldn't convince him to take less money to be in Expendables 3. You really want him to have two people he doesn't know. We have a title. Let's do it.
Yeah, just based on the title alone.
We'll pay you whatever we have.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, we'll worry about the money side of it afterwards. Don't worry about that right now.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what I'm sure that's his mindset going into the movies.
We can find a studio or something. I mean, me and my naivety.
I can't. No. We'll make a movie called Only the Good Die Hard, starring the main character Bon McBlain, and his. Where he goes to the Kasha Womi building and relives a horrible event he lived prior.
Yeah. Oh my god! We could probably we could probably film there.
That's true. Well, that's Fox headquarters.
Oh,
did you not know that?
Never mind. I didn't know it was Fox headquarters now.
Yeah, that was the Fox building. That's how they were able to film there. But yeah. Well, another movie we had long. This is the main movie we had long talked about making for the longest time, doing a remake of, was It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a traditional movie we watch every year, Christmas Eve. I unfortunately the last 2 years have been kind of iffy about it. Because I've been out on my own. But I've watched the first half of it twice the last 2 years.
Oh, it's got to be brutal getting through it then again when you haven't watched the whole movie. The only last two times you watched it, you watched the same half of the movie. It must be brutal trying to get through it.
Oh, not really. I mean, I still enjoy the movie. But
I haven't watched it in a long time.
That was a movie you and I were talking about. Like, if we ever had the chance to remake it, we'd remake it because we love it so much. But they've announced a sequel to that. They've announced they're going to do a sequel to that.
But that's not. I don't really think that's going to be much of anything. I mean, they've done
probably
sequels
not.
to like really classic movies before, and they never turn out to be much of anything. And I don't really. I don't. It didn't seem like, from what I read of it, that it was really that big a deal. It was like a DVD thing or something, or is it getting a theatrical run?
Probably. It has the real Zuzu from the original.
Right.
Like, that's
your
the big
leading,
thing.
Claim to it. Then it's
no. She's gonna be the angel. She's gonna be an angel.
Oh well, even better.
Zuzu's dead apparently.
No. Well, that's nice. Well, the movie was made 80 years ago, so it would make some sense that she would be dead. But anyhow,
well, the real Zuzu's still alive. But anyway, yeah.
Did they fix the roof?
So, did they fix the pedals?
Zuzu's pedals. Yes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Zuzu's pedal.
Yeah, so we
should probably wrap this up.
But we'll do that after we have the amazing success we do for Only the Good Die Hard, and we can ride the success of that into doing whatever movies we want to do for down the road. So
absolutely,
if you're listening, Bruce Willis, get in touch with us. We know what we're doing. We know the score. We know what can we know what can make work, or whatever studios out there listening, because I'm sure they're all listening. We'll do it.
Yeah, we will. All right, so thank you for watching or listening or whatever. If this is on iTunes, how the hell did you get this off of iTunes? And and
good one.
One day I'll look into getting this on iTunes. If not, a link available in the description to download if you want to listen to it again. I don't know why you would. Or if you're listening to this in the first place where you downloaded it already, good on you. So thank you from Tom and I here at our respective places in Colorado and North Kakalaki. We bid you adieu.
Yes, and we will see you next time, and it will not be a year. I guarantee you that.
No. It'll be, we will, I can, yeah.
Are we going to commit publicly to a time frame, or are we just going to leave it at that?
Well, I mean, ideally, you and I will be doing this every week. So
that was the goal. Yes, I didn't want to say anything until, right. I wanted you to lead with that, because you're the...
Yeah, so guy. We'll see you next week, probably, hopefully. We should probably end this.
Yeah,
otherwise
we have a struggle.
We might get
we don't
caught
sign off. But I'll do it. Okay. From Dan and Tom to all of you, have a great day. Thank you for listening. We'll check you out next week.
Good night and good luck. Second star to the left and straight on till morning.
Second star to the right, you jackass. Second star down the middle to the behind or whatever.
I think, yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.